Welcome to the IKSURFMAG travel guide for Brandon Bay in Ireland.
The forecast looks absolutely insane.
You might be wondering what's so special about this place, and having been here for the last week, all I can say is it's magical. The views are absolutely majestic, it's completely stunning, and it's definitely well worth checking out and putting it on your bucket list. If you've not been here before, then it's definitely a spot that you want to come and check out. If you like surfing, you're into wave kiting, then this should really be on your radar. I think it's one of the best spots in the world, perhaps, in terms of having such a plethora of locations where you can go in such a small area. So the bay itself is called Brandon Bay. It's near Castle Gregory, which is a little village on the Dingle Peninsula, and it stretches for miles. I think it's 7 miles or something like that. And all the way along, as it curves around, there's just endless spots and wave breaks and places you can kite and surf and get in the water and have fun. A lot of people have been coming here for years, and you find many people make it an annual pilgrimage. So they're coming once a year, twice a year, and chatting some of the people in the bars, they say that they wouldn't change it for the world. One thing you've got to take into consideration is the wind and the weather. So we are way out on the west coast of Ireland, and it is wild, especially if you come here in the autumn or the spring, because those are the times that it's really good for waves and for wind, and that's when you want to be getting on the water. You're going to need to bring a jacket, some waterproof boots, and be prepared for anything. Generally, a weekend isn't going to be long enough. You're not going to be able to explore all the amazing spots and get the most out of it. And because it's not like a regular as clockwork place like Brazil for wind, you might miss out and you might be here and not get a decent session in. There's always something to do. So I've never been here and seen it completely flat. I have been here before and missed out on the wind and not got any wind, but there's always something to do in the ocean. If you're into surfing, if you're into the sea, you can go paddleboarding, and there's always walks up and down the mountains too, which surround the bay. Looking out to sea, it's just one of the most stunning places I think I've ever been. It reminds me a little bit of New Zealand, and it's just these huge, great big hills rolling up out of the sea. It's green, it's lush, it's an absolute feast for the eyeballs. And that's something that you should definitely experience at least once in your life. So if you do decide to come here, it's definitely worth hooking up with one of the local guys. There's a chap called Ryan Coote. He's lived here since forever, it feels like. And he knows this place like the back of his hand. He knows all the best spots, all the places to go when the waves are on, all the places to go when the wind's pumping. And he actually runs a kite surfing school. If you look up Kite Surfing Ireland, you'll find him. And he's based up right at the top end of the bay. And he's an invaluable source of knowledge. He runs trips over here. So that would be my first recommendation on how to get into coming to Ireland if you wanted to, would be to actually hook up with Ryan and have a chat with him and come over on one of his trips, because that's going to get you the most amount of time on the water. He's an awesome bloke. You'll get on with him like a house on fire. And this is one of those places, if you haven't been before, it's quite hard to know where to go on a given day and which spot's working. So it's well worth making sure that you get a bit of local knowledge at least. So hook up with Ryan Coote if you've not been before, or if you've got friends that have been before, perhaps ask them, get the lowdown, get some knowledge. There's so many spots that it's very easy to kind of miss out and not get the best of the day. And when you are here, you really want to be maximising every little moment you've got on the water. In addition to Ryan, there's a guy called Jamie Knox. He's one of the old school windsurfers from back in the day. He set up Jamie Knox Water Sports. So if you want to learn to windsurf or wing or do anything, you can hook up with him. He's also got a shop, which is really useful. And that's up in the Maharees. And that's a great place to go and pick up any spares. If you break anything, he's always got a few bits and pieces in there. So that's a really good contact to have as well. So remember the names Jamie Knox and Ryan Coote. And they're people that you definitely want to get in touch with if you're planning to come over. In terms of the spots here, there's absolutely loads of options. Depending on the wind and swell conditions and depending on what you want to do, you'll always find a perfect place to get on the water. If you're into wave riding, then the main part of the bay is going to be the spot for you. So all the way along the 7-mile stretch of coastline, there's different wave breaks, different little spots to get in. Some of the main ones are for moil down at the bottom end. That can be really good if the waves are huge and you want it to be a little bit tamer, but the wind can be a little bit more gusty because it comes over the mountains and through the valley. Moving up from there, you've got a spot called Kilcummin. Both of those spots you can get a vehicle onto the beach, and that's quite a nice treat in this day and age to be able to park on a beach and rig up out the boot of your vehicle and then go kite surfing and then drive off at the beach at the end. So Kilcummin, the wind's a little bit cleaner, the waves are a little bit bigger depending on the swell, but that can be a great spot as well. Moving up from there, you've got another spot called Gow Lane. The parking is limited at Gow Lane, and unless you've got a 4x4, you can't really get a 2-wheel drive vehicle on the beach because the sand's a little bit softer. Heading up from there, you've got dumps and drain pipes, and then you'll find Jamie Knox's Water Sports Centre in that neck of the woods too. And then finally, if you come up from there and head towards the top end of the bay, there's actually a reef break called Mozzie's. Mozzie's is incredible when it's working, but it takes quite a lot for the conditions to line up. So if you do manage to score a good Mozzie's day, you're doing really well and you're incredibly lucky. So if big waves isn't your thing and that's not what you want to do, don't worry, because the other side of the peninsula, the water is much, much flatter. And actually, sometimes you do get a little wave wrapping around there as well. So if you want something for a bit of a beginnery session to learn, that can be a good place to go too. It's perfect for winging and kite surfing, surfing, sup, all water sports. So it's well worth bringing absolutely everything with you in the van. Normally I check the forecast beforehand to give me an idea, and I think, oh, maybe I won't take the SUP wave board. And then just before I leave, I'm like, no, I'm going to take all the toys because you never know. And it's not the kind of place where you want to be and you haven't got your kit with you. So definitely pack as much stuff as you can. I'd also recommend bringing a couple of wetsuits if you've got them. It's really tough to dry things out here. The wind and weather's pretty wild. So, you know, often it's going to be raining at night, depending on where you're staying. That's going to make it tricky to dry stuff. So if you've got a couple of suits, it just makes it a little bit more of a luxury. I often find I'll spend up to 8 hours a day in a wetsuit because you'll get up in the morning, come for a surf, and then that's where you'll then plan the rest of your day around that and head off to different spots up and down the beach and jump in and do different activities. So it's worth bearing in mind. It's the kind of place that if you do come, a couple of wetsuits is going to make it a lot more comfortable. In terms of accommodation, Airbnb is going to be your friend. There's loads of places that are available for rent here. There's also a couple of caravan parks, but generally have a little look around and see what you can find. In terms of where you want to stay, Castle Gregory is the main village. There's a spa there and a restaurant and a couple of pubs. So that's definitely worth a look. But actually up towards the Maharees is where most of the people stay when they come here. That's generally because it's kind of a little bit further up the bay. It's closer to Mozzie's, so it's good for getting in the right conditions. But you also have the option of either side of the peninsula to jump in quite easily. But perhaps the main draw is the infamous Spillane's pub. If you've never been here before, there's a chance you might have heard of Spillane's, but if you have been here before, there's definitely a chance that you've had a pint of Guinness in there. In terms of evening entertainment, while it's fairly remote out here and there's not a high density of population, there's always something fun to do. So there are a few good restaurants that are worth going to for eating. Spillane's pub obviously has got a mention, but don't just think about Spillane's and only go there. It's definitely worth checking out some of the others as well. Another thing to consider is there's lots of places to go outside of this little area. So whilst we're on the Dingle Peninsula, you've also got Inch Beach over on the other side. That's well worth a visit. It's another huge stretch of beach that just goes out into the sea. Can get really good surf there and can be good for kiting as well in the right conditions. There's also other places like Winestrand, which is worth having a look at. I've kite surfed there before and it's been absolutely phenomenal. So coming back to that local knowledge that I mentioned before and connecting with some of the people here that really know about it, that's worth doing for sure. So while it might not be board shorts weather, there's definitely one thing that I can say about this place. It's majestic. The scenery is just unbelievable. Everywhere you look, you're just absolutely treated to a total feast for your eyes. And I get that sometimes when you go on holiday, you've only got a week and you want to make sure that you're going to have a good time and there's going to be some sunshine and you're going to enjoy yourself. I totally understand that. But here in Brandon Bay, whilst you might not be getting sunshine and board shorts weather, and you definitely don't get guaranteed wind because it's frontal and it comes in off the ocean, you are going to be treated to an absolutely out of this world experience. It's not just the amazing kite surfing, which is phenomenal, or the world-class surfing, or the friendliness of the local Irish people, or the fun in the pub and the Guinness at night. It's everything, it all combines, and just looking out and seeing it all is just unbelievable. I've been here quite a few times now, and I'll definitely keep coming back, perhaps a little bit more regularly. COVID meant we didn't come for a couple of years, and I'd sort of thought, now living in Wales, why would I want to go to Ireland when I've got similar conditions right on my doorstep? And this week's just reaffirmed for me how incredible this place is. So, as a top tip recommendation for a travel guide, it's a little bit off the wall. It's not your regular place to go, but it is incredible. It's one of the most phenomenal spots that you'll ever go to. And I guarantee anyone that takes this advice and comes out here will just get out of the car after the drive, look out to sea, look at the hills, look at the mountains, and agree with me 100%. It is absolutely awesome. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.